My advice for anyone who is working part-time in the mortgage biz, I'm going to talk about it in two parts. One, if you are a rookie agent and you're doing this part-time, or if you're an experienced agent and you want to be doing this part-time, but you're working too much. Hey, I'm Scott Beckford. This is the I Love Mortgage Brokering podcast, the podcast that is specifically for mortgage brokers to help them scale their business. And today I want to talk about strategies around being part-time. Can you be part-time? Should you be part-time? And all that great stuff. So let me just jump right into this topic. The first thing I want to deal with is that I've heard sometimes people say you can't do this more business part-time. That is absolutely false. You can do this part-time. However, there's a few caveats to that, which I'll break down here in a second. So this conversation actually came about because I was out with a friend on a hike and I was explaining how I had done this 50K trail run many years ago and how I'd hired a coach at the time to help me because I wanted to know about nutrition and training. And one of the weird takeaways from my coach was that he said, when you're doing these long ultra distance runs, you walk the hills and you run the flats and the downhills. So it's weird. So you're thinking, I got to make the best possible time. And he's like, you'll make better time by walking those uphills and running the flats and the downhills. And this guy knows his stuff. I mean, he would do 100-mile runs, which is 160 kilometers. He knew what he was talking about. And I did that for the race and I was able to complete it. It was a 50K run, did just under 6 hours, which I was happy with. Sadly, because I didn't reset my goals after that. I think I stopped running for a year and a half or something. It was so stupid. It was like, I ran 50K and now I don't run anymore. So I've learned as I've gotten older that I always have to create a new goal when I achieve one so that I'm always motivating myself. But that's not the point of this topic. So let's just talk about this part-time thing. I seen a post recently in our Facebook group and somebody was saying, oh, you can't do this part-time. I actually believe that's not true. That's not true. Well, I know it's not true because we've had in our brokerage, one of the things we do is we have a great coaching program for rookies. And we've had numerous of rookies have come in, started out part-time, had another job, or they had, child commitments that they need to take care of, and then slowly grew their business up, went full-time in their mortgage business. And then now they're at the stage where hiring an assistant. So they went from being part-time to full-time to being so busy that they actually need an assistant. And that's because you just need to have a plan. But the thing where that gets people get tripped up is that they start thinking like they're comparing their progress to someone else's. So they'll look over and they'll see somebody else and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how fast they're going. But that other person they're spending 50 hours a week on it. And you may be only spending 15 or 20, or maybe it's 10 hours. That's probably on the light end. You're going to be going really slow at 10, and so the point is that comparing with someone else, you don't know what their 9 to 5 looks like. You don't know what kind of support they have. You don't know, like maybe something like compare two scenarios. You got one broker with no kids, maybe no significant other, or if they have a very supportive significant other and they're able to just go head down and go flat out in this business. And then someone else who has kids to get to school. They've got, others, they got another job. Like that's a significantly different 9 to 5, and your 9 to 5 may not be theirs. Now, the one thing I tell you, don't compare, but also don't use the fact you still have to get something done every day. Like you still have to put that time in. Otherwise, you're not actually building a business, right? And so for you, you're in the season of uphill. So if you're the person who's like, I got a lot of other stuff on my plate. Okay, cool. You are uphill. Just walk, and you just keep walking. It doesn't mean you stop. You don't turn around. You don't go, okay, this run's not for me. And the thing I like about ultra distance running, I think it's very parallels to being a mortgage broker because it is the long game. The most successful mortgage brokers that I've ever had the privilege of working with or coaching or learn from, they all play the long game. And so when in that season of life, you need to understand that you're just not going to be able to go. Your flats will come and your downhills will come. Like I talk about the broker who went from part-time to full-time to now having an assistant, they're running downhill now. They're now able to be like, wow, I can't believe how much work I can get done. But they didn't get there. They had to go through the suck of the uphill. And so if you're part-time, I would just encourage you to think about this is like, okay, but I got to put in some reps every day. I've got to be doing something. And the other thing about being part-time is it can really help you learn how to be better at managing your calendar. You're going to have to be better at managing your calendar. You just do, right? They always say, if you want something done, give it to a busy person. If you got another job, if you got stuff to take care of, you're a busy person. Therefore, you got to be more disciplined. However, as you start to be able to move into doing this full time, don't let that new habit, that new muscle go. You can apply that to your business and you'll actually get even a bigger lift. And so that's what I would think about. Now, if you're part-time, you can absolutely do this. Or if you're new, you can absolutely do this part-time to start. And the other thing I would say with the part-time is that you do need to have good support even at your brokerage level. So in terms of because you're not going to have as much time, how are you going to, if you got a file you need to work on, how do you get a hold of your mentor? And one of the things that I think, the mentor model, a lot of brokerages use the mentor model. I'm not a big fan of the mentor model only because I find that if you have a mentor who's good, they're usually busy because that's why they're good. And so what happens is that you can end up, you need to talk to somebody about your file that you finally get this referral. And now you're like, oh shoot, They're busy. They're out of the office today. They're at a golf thing. They're busy with their own files, and so then it's you're competing for their attention. So what we do at our brokerage, which is unique, that as far as I know, we're the only one that does it. We have underwriting room coaches in underwriting rooms 55 hours a week, and our agents can go in and ask questions. They can pull up the file, look at the documents, and they can get answers really fast. And that makes a big difference in their ability to compete. And so I would just say the last piece of advice on if you're new is make sure you have good support. All right, let me talk about if you're an experienced agent and you're like, Scott, I want to be in the stage of like part-time. I don't want to be running as hard. How do I do that? And so what I would say to you is that there's a couple things that you need to have. First, you need to have really good processes, and you need to have consistent processes. Every mortgage can't look different than the last. Like I did it this way this time. You want to use checklists, you want to use processes, you want to have those dialed in so that the entire experience is much faster, right? Jim Toluca is a perfect example. A guy who does, 600 mortgages a year with 3 people. Their processes are very tight. They're the same every time. And so you're going to want to have really good processes. But then I would also add in, so the processes, and the way you do that is map out your customer journey. So everything from first contact to client for life, every single step, all the stuff that you're doing. And then what you want to do is you're going to pick the top 20% of things that move the needle the most for your business, that you can do, that you enjoy the most and make you the most money. And then the other 80%, you're going to get other people to help you. So that could be a combination of some contractors. It could be a combination of assistant fulfillment. And if you get into that, then you can work part-time if you're experienced and you've built up a good processes and good funnels. You can do this part-time absolutely and still grow. And so, but you're going to have to give good processes. And then so 2 things you need if you're experienced is you need processes and you need people to help you. And the trick is what I love to do is you think about this, 80-20. So 20% of the things you're doing make you the most impact and you make the most income. You keep applying the 80-20 principle and you look at your list of tasks. You do everything you can to get rid of, delete, you batch, you delegate these activities. Then what you do is then you can spend your time in the top 20%, which is where you make all your money anyway. And then if you end up with a business that has more than one assistant, you just get your assistant to do the same thing. So your assistant is now the person that you hire. So let's say they start to get busy and you're like, I don't want to get back to, I want to keep focusing on the narrow things that I like to do. What you do with your assistant is you make them write down their 20% of things that they enjoy the most. And then the next job description that you backfill with is the person's the tasks that your assistant didn't want to do, right? And what happens is your admin person starts to enjoy their job more because they're doing the tasks they like. And then the next person you bring on you can specialize in those activities. So you can do both. You can absolutely do this, but you do need to think about process and you do need to think about people if you're going to do this as a part-time mortgage broker. And even as a part-time mortgage broker, if you're experienced, the other thing would be just keeping up on the which lender products and stuff. And so that's, again, you're going to want to have. I would also encourage you to have some kind of a network of some other experienced brokers that you are able to share with and communicate. So like a little mastermind, if you will, so that you can stay on, because you can't even if you are doing this full time, if you have the ability to have some collaboration with people that are around the same production, what can happen is that the things that you miss, they see. And if you guys are sharing, you're going to be like, oh, thanks for that idea. I didn't realize lender X had that. Cool. Now I can apply it to my business. And even if you're full time, you may miss that. So I still think it's a good idea to have that little collaboration group for you and your business. But anyways, that's my thoughts on part-time. I think you can absolutely do it both ways if you're rookie or experienced. And remind yourself that it is like an ultra distance running. If you're in the uphill season and it's okay, walk, but just keep moving, your feet moving, and know that if flat are coming, which is going to be, you can start picking up speed, and the downhill is where you're really going to make money. And this market right now is a challenging market. It is uphill for a lot of people, but when it shifts, as it starts to shift, if you stay at it and you keep the processes and people in place, you can absolutely make a ton of money and enjoy it. Anyways, I hope you find that useful. My name is Scott Beckford. Thanks for listening. And as I always say, there's no problem in your mortgage business that someone else hasn't already solved. Your problem is who's got the answer. Hopefully this podcast provides some of those for you. Thanks for listening, and I will see you on the next episode.